What secret obsession is shared by kings, popes, and presidents, Templars, Freemasons, and Founding Fathers, Renaissance masters, modern architects, and NASA? What has been encoded in art, architecture, and urban design, spanning the whole of recorded history up to the present time? These are the secrets in plain sight. As a teacher of architects, it was the buildings in Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, and the Lost Symbol that started me on a journey of exploration. What I found encoded in these structures was stranger than fiction, and perhaps even more compelling. Friends kept handing me interesting non-fiction, and after a while I felt that each was a clue in some overarching and interconnected mystery. I felt I was seeing no more than the tip of an iceberg. As I investigated further, I unwittingly began an initiation into the ancient mysteries, as I progressively uncovered a body of knowledge cleverly hidden in plain sight in the design of important buildings, famous works of art, in long-distance alignments between sacred sites, and in the streets and public spaces of many of the world's great cities. What I have uncovered is a story about monumental works specifically designed to embody a symbolic program of ancient wisdom. This wisdom relates to core truths about the design or architecture of the universe, best expressed by musical principles, sacred geometry, and number theory. What I am calling the architecture of the universe is closely related to the Hermetic philosophies of Pythagoras and Plato. All is number, all is mind, indeed all is consciousness. These ideas originated before the pharaohs, and the specifics of this ancient science have been passed down through the centuries by secret groups dedicated to either preserving heretical ideas in dangerous times, or to exploiting the knowledge itself for the acquisition of temporal power. We'll travel virtually to Giza, Stonehenge, Jerusalem, Rome, Paris, London, Edinburgh, New York, Washington, D.C., Winnipeg, and San Francisco searching for answers. In these places I uncover an interconnected system of geometry and symbolism, going back at least to ancient Egypt. We'll find Pythagorean triangles, vesica piscis, rhombi, pyramids, octograms, enneagrams, and zodiacs encoded in much of the world's great architecture and urban design, exposing a secret obsession with ancient symbolism spanning the centuries on up to the present day. Many researchers past and present have uncovered important clues in this mystery. I've synthesized the work of many other authors and been fortunate to make my own connections via books and the internet. What I'm about to share with you is an ongoing effort, and I invite your participation. I believe the time is ripe to reveal what has been hidden for so many centuries and bring this body of knowledge to public attention for the benefit of all. After reading The Lost Symbol, I was intrigued with Washington, D.C. It's a city overflowing with esoteric symbolism. Let me point out a few landmarks. Here's the White House, Capitol Building, Washington Monument, Jefferson Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, and the Pentagon just across the Potomac. Rick Campbell has uncovered much of the underlying geometry of the city on his informative site, dcsymbols.com. He sees the following diagram in the streets and interconnection of monuments. The geometry consists of a pentagram over a cube, all contained within an overarching pyramid. Each one of these shapes carries a meaning we'll be exploring. The cube is a recurrent esoteric symbol for the body that we'll be running into all over the world. I found a pair of 3, 4, 5 triangles between the cube and the pyramid. Turning off the cube layer, you see the rectangle surrounding the White House is also made up of a pair of interlocking triangles, this time with 5, 12, 13 proportions. 3, 4, 5 and 5, 12, 13 are the first two Pythagorean triplets. As you'll begin to appreciate, Pythagorean knowledge figures prominently in decoding this mystery. Where have we seen an unfinished pyramid before? On the back of the dollar bill, of course. If we illuminate the DC pyramid with the same all-seeing eye of providence, we are directed to a specific building. Is this the eye of providence we are looking at, or its older incarnation as the eye of Horus? Either way, what is behind the all-seeing eye of the sun? It's the headquarters of Scottish Freemasonry, which goes by many names, including the Supreme Council, Mother Council of the World, and House of the Temple. This building is loaded with Egyptian symbolism, with a 13-step unfinished pyramid on top, just like on the dollar bill, and 2 giant sphinxes flank the entrance out front. The architect John Russell Pope modeled the 1911 building after the mausoleum of Halicarnassus, now a part of Turkey. As one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, it served as tomb of King Mausolus, which is where we get the word mausoleum. The House of the Temple correspondingly serves as tomb of Albert Pike, Sovereign Grand Commander, Confederate General, and the most famous Freemason of his times. Pike wrote Morals and Dogma, the handbook formerly given to new members up until 1974, which details the 33 ranks of Freemasonry. The House of the Temple is where the climax in the lost symbol takes place. The sunburst above the entry is at the center of the square, and the top corner marks the symbolic apex of the unfinished pyramid. The bottom corner presumably marks the crypt where Pike is interred. Scottish Freemasons are really into the number 33. There are 33 columns in the House of the Temple that are 33 feet high. This is the place where a hard-working initiate can attain the highest 33rd degree from the 33 members of the Supreme Council. 33rd degree Masons are often found in positions of power. Many presidents of the United States were Freemasons. The Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania has a permanent exhibit featuring the portrait and signature of each of these presidents, with a record of their Masonic careers. It is difficult to verify Masonic membership because some members do not make their involvement a matter of public record. However, each lodge keeps its own records. I find it interesting that George Washington, Harding, Eisenhower, Carter, and the younger Bush all chose to be sworn into the office of the president with a hand on this Masonic Bible dating from 1770. One has to be male and believe in a supreme being to seek membership as a Scottish Freemason. They insist their fraternity is not a religion, although atheists are ineligible for membership. Freemasonry is not a secret society, but members are strongly admonished under pain of death not to reveal core secrets. Much of what happens inside the House of the Temple has been pieced together by outside researchers in recent years, and this has been brought forward in Dan Brown's book, The Lost Symbol. Members can rise to the 32nd degree through hard work and study, but only those selected by the Supreme Council may attain the highest 33rd degree. Richard Hoagland and Mike Barra have dredged up the most interesting connections between the Scottish Freemasons and NASA. Here is Cape Canaveral at Kennedy Space Center. These are the 2 launch pads where all the Apollo and Space Shuttle missions left Earth. Here is the single runway, runway 33. Of all the vectors they could have chosen for the strip, why did NASA choose 33 degrees west of north? If that seems like circumstantial evidence to you, how about this? Here is astronaut Buzz Aldrin, 33rd degree Mason, on the moon holding the flag of the Supreme Council, which he later brought back to Earth and gave to the Supreme Commander of the House of the Temple. These examples show that the Freemasons and NASA are obsessed with this number. I'm wondering what's so special about 33? Where else does this number appear? Jesus is said to have performed 33 miracles and to have died at age 33. Perhaps this is no coincidence. The Bible says King David, father of the famous Solomon who built the first temple in Jerusalem, reigned for 33 years. In the Kabbalah, or Jewish mysticism, there are 10 Sephirot in the Tree of Life, plus another hidden one called Doth. Adding the 22 paths between Sephirot brings the total up to the magic 33. My theory involves the Schumann resonance. This is the frequency at which the Earth vibrates. Scientists have measured this standing wave at 7.83 Hz, with a wavelength equal to the circumference of the Earth. This inaudible low hum is due to lightning discharges in our conductive ionosphere, causing the planet to actually ring like a bell. If you do the simple calculation, which I've done here in a spreadsheet, you'll see that middle C is 33 harmonics, or 32 overtones above the Schumann resonance. Sound implausible? Think of it this way. Our bodies resonate 33 octaves above the Earth's fundamental vibration. This fits with the ancient Hermetic motto, as above, so below. I find it incredible that the UN emblem divides the Earth into 33 sectors. This has to be more than coincidental. The human spinal column appropriately has 33 vertebrae if you count the fused bones in the lower spine individually. 33 might very well be built into the architecture of the universe. For further confirmation, let's take a look at the Great Seal of the United States of America as shown on the back of a $1 bill. Let's start with the obverse side of the Great Seal. That's the side with the eagle. Most important to our current line of inquiry, let's count the number of feathers on the wings. The left wing has 33 feathers, and the right wing has 32. Could these refer to the 33 harmonics or 32 overtones just discussed in relation to the Schumann resonance? I think Rick Campbell has correctly decoded the controlling geometry. 3 circles with their centers on each other's circumferences form a kind of double vesica Pisces, if you will. A vesica Pisces is formed whenever 2 equally sized circles come together, such that their centers are on each other's circumferences. A Star of David emerges from the 3 circles' intersection points. Examining the reverse of the Great Seal, we find the same controlling geometry. Look at the letters picked out of the mottos Annuit Coptis and Novus Ordo Seclorum. Never mind right now what these mottos signify. The letters at the points of the Star of David are A, S, N, O, and M. Rearranging, we get Mason. So to summarize, we've seen how the House of the Temple presides over a street pyramid in Washington, D.C. There is a clear Masonic connection to the office of the President, NASA, and the United Nations. The Scottish Freemasons are obsessed with the number 33, which is echoed in the Judeo-Christian tradition, having a resonance both with the human body and the earth. It's no secret that Masons trace their history back through the Knights Templar. I was amazed to discover there is an urban village straight across the Potomac from the White House called Rosslyn. Many researchers believe one of the Templar factions fled to Scotland after the infamous raid that destroyed their order. Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland was the place featured in the Da Vinci Code, where Sophie learned she was a direct descendant of Jesus, and where she was reunited with her bloodline. Friday the 13th, October 1307, was the date most of the Templars got arrested, had their considerable assets seized, were interrogated and tortured to death by agents of the French king, acting in cooperation with the Pope. Knowing the connections between the Templars, Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, and the Scottish Freemasons made me take a closer look at Rosslyn, Virginia. Rosslyn has 2 important features, a dense urban village and the Marine Corps War Memorial. So I drew a line from the center of the Marine Corps Memorial in Rosslyn, Virginia, to the center of Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland. The Great Circle Path passes precisely over the apex of the Eye of Providence and the entire DC Street Pyramid. arguably confirming my line of reasoning. Before we leave Scotland entirely, let's take a detour to Edinburgh. The Royal Mile is Edinburgh's oldest and busiest tourist street. If we measure a line from the facade of Holyrood Abbey, built in 1128 by King David I of Scotland, to the circular tower in Edinburgh Castle, built by the same king, we find that it measures almost precisely 8/7 of a mile. The Royal Mile referred to in Edinburgh is therefore the Egyptian Royal Mile by definition. This is a memorable and important unit because, as Richard Heath shows in his book Sacred Number and the Origins of Civilization, King David built these structures right at the beginning of the Knights Templars' existence, shortly after the Knights returned from Jerusalem and the Gothic building explosion began. Could King David I of Scotland have been connected to the knowledge the Templars unearthed from the House of David in Jerusalem? Let's return to Washington, D.C. and see how the Royal Mile is encoded there in plain sight. Zooming into the area in front of the Capitol building, many researchers have identified Masonic compasses built into the street plan. The compasses that run along Pennsylvania and Maryland avenues point to the White House and the Jefferson Memorial. The spread of the compasses is 1 royal mile. I might chalk this up to coincidence if it wasn't for the diagram Richard Heath has published in Sacred Number. Heath's diagram is drawn as a grid of equilateral triangles, so every edge measures 1 royal mile. The Jefferson Memorial, White House, and House of the Temple are centrally located on these nodes. The point of the Pentagon facing the White House is at this node. This is simply too much coincidence to have not been the product of intentional design. I find the ancient Flower of Life diagram fits perfectly into this grid. The Flower of Life has been found all over the world. Wikipedia lists the Flower of Life in 15 countries so far. Here's the Flower of Life at the Osirion Temple in Abydos, Egypt, which is a minimum of 3,300 years old. It's a little-known fact that Leonardo da Vinci even studied the Flower of Life. This is the second depiction of a cube we've seen in DC. Metrology, the science of measurement, is one of the keys to deciphering secret architecture. Each side of the larger cube spans 2 triangles, forming an edge length equal to 2 royal miles. The number 1728 links DC with the mythical New Jerusalem described in the Bible. And the city lieth 4 square, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. The dimensions of New Jerusalem describe a cube whose volume is 1728 billion furlongs. Did you ever wonder why the US and Israel have such a strong bond? DC is the New Jerusalem. Here's the 1992 Israeli Supreme Court building in Jerusalem. Does this pyramid on top containing a window look familiar? It appears to be the Eye of Providence, the same symbol found in the streets of DC and on the dollar bill. Many researchers have seen the Tree of Life from Jewish mysticism encoded in DC's traffic circles and monuments. However, DCSymbols.com is the only place that shows how the streets and traffic circles match this early depiction of the Porte Lucis Tree of Life from 1516. The Portal of Light version is shaped like an actual tree. Maybe that's where the Tree of Life got its name. Scott Circle's gently curving streets mimic the shape of the Pythagorean Y. In The Secret Architecture of Our Nation's Capital, author David Oveson says, "The Pythagorean Y is a vestigial drawing of a path through life, in which one is perpetually presented with a choice of symbolic directions. Should one do good or bad?" Scott Circle is in the position in the Tree of Life known as Doth, the hidden Sephiro. According to the Kabbalah, The reason Doth is depicted as hidden is because humans who remain selfish cannot see it. Only those who orient themselves in the service of others. I think Scott's circle exemplifies the secret architecture of DC. It's plain to see once you have the knowledge, but remains hidden to the general public. Most people who know the Tree of Life are more familiar with the Athanasius Kircher version of 1652, which is arranged in 3 columns. The Kircher version is seen here in John Evelyn's plan to rebuild London after the Great Fire of 1666. Both he and Christopher Wren submitted plans based on the Tree of Life, although Wren's wasn't as in-your-face as Evelyn's. Neither were actually carried out, but it shows you this kind of esoteric symbolism wasn't anything new when DC was laid out a century after the Great Fire of London. As you've seen, there is a deep connection to Judaism, both in the Tree of Life and in the metrology of Richard Heath's larger cube that links Washington, D.C. with the mythical New Jerusalem in the Bible. To understand why both the Flower of Life and Tree of Life are in DC, you need a 1-minute visual education in sacred geometry. The Flower of Life grows on the Tree of Life. Flower of Life geometry is based on the 2D reality that 6 circles fit perfectly around a central 7th, shown here with quarters. Flowers eventually bear fruit, and with a growth of circles we have the traditional Fruit of Life diagram, containing 13 circles. Connecting the dots reveals Metatron's cube, an important diagram in the study of sacred geometry. It was named after the biblical figure Enoch, who was transformed into the archangel Metatron. Metatron's cube contains the 5 Platonic solids, both in smaller and larger scales, like a fractal. Platonic solids figure prominently in Plato's philosophy, after whom they were named. The dots in the interstices encode the pattern of 2 intersecting Pythagorean tetractyses. This is the pattern on the dollar bill, in what is called glory above the eagle's head. Pythagoreans swore an oath to the tetractys, which was the most important symbol in their secret worship of number. All of this symbolism is interconnected in a system. Masons study for years to understand these things and advance through their degrees. Freemasonry is a remnant of an ancient mystery school. Look at how many lucky 13s are on the obverse of the Great Seal. We've already seen the 13 stars of glory over the eagle's head. In the eagle's claws there are 13 arrows, 13 leaves on the branches hold 13 olives, and there are 13 stripes on the shield. Perhaps having 13 colonies was no accident. Curiously, the eagle only has 9 tail feathers. Everything has a meaning in symbolism. The 13th degree of Scottish Freemasonry is called the Royal Arch of Solomon. It's about Enoch, descent into a vault, the arch, a triangle of gold, a cube of agate, and the name of God. Enoch supposedly excavated 9 chambers, think of the tail feathers, underneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, one below the other, each with a supporting arch. In the final chamber he placed a cube of agate, inset with a triangle of gold engraved with the holy name of God. By this sacred geometry, Rick Campbell has shown Enoch's cube is in fact Metatron's cube, the triangle within the cube. The name of God shown in Hebrew is called the Tetragrammaton, the most sacred 4-letter word in Judaism. The letters of the Tetragrammaton are traditionally shown in the Pythagorean tetractys because it encodes the Shem Ham Horash, or names of God, which in Jewish mystical tradition corresponds to 72 arrangements of the 4 holy letters.